If you keep houseplants, you're eventually going to have to do this, so let me show you how. I'm talking about repotting a plant. So at some point, your plant is going to get too big for the pot that it's in, and you're going to need to go to a bigger pot size. A lot of people are intimidated by this process, so I'm just going to walk you through it. So there's a few signs to look for to know if your plant needs to be repotted, first of all. So one thing is by squeezing the pot. This one's starting to feel quite hard, so that makes me think that there are a lot of roots in here that are bunching up and pushing outward on the walls of the pot. Another good sign that your plant might need to be repotted is if it has roots that are peeking out of the drain holes, because that means those roots are looking for more room. Or if the plant is getting so big that it's just pulling the moisture out of the pot extremely quickly. You will probably need to get some more soil around those roots in order to keep from having to water it so frequently. So the first thing you want to do is pick out your new pot. You can use a plastic nursery pot, you could use a ceramic pot, decorative pot, whatever you want to do, but make sure that it's at least a few inches bigger than the original pot that this was in. So this is going to have a little bit of room to grow. You could go even to a little bit bigger size pot, something like this for this plant. But if you do that, it's going to have a lot of soil for a small amount of roots. So you have to really watch and make sure that you don't overwater it in this case. So let's stick with this one for today. Now this is the part that really intimidates people, is getting the plant out of the old pot. You've got to remember that plants are not as delicate as you think. So you can lay them over, that's fine. You can flip them over, that's fine. You could drop them and they're still going to be okay. So I want you to lay this down on the table and just push down on this pot, because what that's going to do is it's going to separate the roots from the sides of the pot. Once you've done that a little bit, you can just go ahead and grab the plant, grab the pot, and then just start working it out. Push on the bottom, and eventually you'll get it out of there. Now this plant is experiencing the beginning parts of being root bound. Root bound would mean that there are so many roots in here that they've really displaced all the soil that was originally in there. Right now it's probably 60-70% roots and just only 30 or 40% of soil. Today we're going to be using Happy Frog potting soil that works great for houseplants and is an overall good general purpose potting mix. So we're going to start off by just filling in the bottom part of the new pot with some soil. Just get 3 or 4 inches in there and tamp it down gently. And then let's set this one in and make sure that we've got the level right. Let's make sure this is sitting in the pot correctly first. This one is actually a little bit too high because we want these roots to be just below the rim of the pot. So I'm going to remove a little bit of that soil so we can set this just a hair lower inside this pot. And then once we've done that, we go right back in, we push it down firmly, we check that level again, and that looks perfect. Now with houseplants, there's no need to loosen up the roots or remove any of the old soil unless you're dealing with some type of specific issue like a root rot or maybe some type of pests in the soil. But in most cases, no need. We're going to start backfilling this now, so take your soil scoop and just start filling in around the sides and pouring that soil all around the edges. At this point, before you pack the soil in, make sure that the plant is angled the way you want it to be, because once you pack that soil, you can't really move it anymore. So I'm going to raise it up just a hair on this backside and then smush some soil down to hold it in place. And I'm just going to gently push that soil all the way around down in the roots to make sure that there are no air pockets left. Repeat that process again. Add a little more soil to continue filling it in. And then tamp it down to hold it in place. It's important that you don't bury the crown of the plant. So the crown is going to be where the base of the stem meets the roots. And so make sure that you are exposing that crown just a little bit and taking that soil away from the crown and getting it out to the edges and packing it down. And at this point, you can take that pot and kind of bounce it up and down and make sure that there are no additional air pockets in there. Or be like Tanner and slap that pot. Forgot to mention at the beginning, you got to make sure that your pot has drain holes, the new pot that you're going into. That is extremely important. You cannot have plants in pots without drain holes. And you're done. Now all that's left is just to water it in, and that's going to further settle that soil down and give it a good drink in its new home.